The following line chart gives information of median pre-tax income by age and gender in the UK. According to the graph, in 3 lines the blue one is for male, the red one is for both, and the green one is for female. We can see male rises from 12,000 at under 20, reaches the highest point of 30,000 at 45 to 49, and falls to the lowest point of 18,000 at 70 to 74. What's more, female has the highest value of 21,000 at 30 to 34, and the lowest value of 15,000 at 70 and over. Finally, both varies between the amounts of male and female. To sum up, female is lower than male in income. The following picture gives information about water cycle in nature. It shows how the process is done. The steps include evaporation, transportation, precipitation, and surface runoff. According to this picture, the first step is evaporation in the sun, with water forming clouds into the sky from the blue sea. Secondly, clouds transportation occurs above green and grey mountains, followed by the third step of precipitation, in which water forms surface runoffs. Finally, surface runoffs go to the sea. To sum up, this picture tells about water cycle in nature. The following graph gives information about journeys made in the UK in 2006 according to their purpose. The items include walking, education, shopping, personal business, school run, day trip, sport, entertainment, and commuting. According to this graph, in walking, the value of men and women are around 4%. You can see from this graph that the highest percentage of women is in shopping, which is 23%, and the highest one of men is in commuting and business, about 23%. What's more, men and women have the lowest numbers in holiday and day trip, and they are around 3%. To sum up, the graph tells about journeys made in the UK. The following graph gives information about adults versus teens, number of texts on a typical day. The items include none, 1 to 10, 11 to 20, 21 to 50, and 101 plus. You can see from this graph that, in none, the value of adults is around 9%. What's more, in none, that of teens is around 2%, the lowest one. Also, in 1 to 10, adults accounts for around 51%, which is the highest. Finally, in 11 to 20, the percentage of teens is around 11%. To sum up, this graph tells about the number of texts. The following graph gives information about vocabulary for different age groups. The items include age group of 0 to 10, 10 to 20 and 20 to 30 years old. According to this graph, in 20 to 30, the vocabulary of 20 to 30 years is around 37,000, and that of 10 to 20 is lower, which is around 22,000. You can see from this graph that the lowest value is in 0 to 10 years, about 8,000. In conclusion, the higher the age, the more the vocabulary they have. The following graph gives information about commuting time in different regions in Britain, 2014. The items include London, Yorkshire, South East, North West, and South West. According to this graph, in London, the commuting time is around 107 minutes, the highest value. You can see from this graph that the second highest value of the commuting time is in East of England, which is 71. The lowest commuting time is in South West, and it is around 56. To sum up, commuting time varies in Britain. The following picture gives information about how a tomato seed can become a tomato plant. The steps include tomato seed, a young plant, a mature plant, a flower, and a fruit. According to this picture, the first step is to get tomato seeds from a tomato fruit cut in half. Then, the seeds become a young tomato plant, which is green. After that you can see a mature tomato plant with green leaves rooted in brown soil, followed by a flower as the next step. Finally, it is a red fruit that comes out of the flower, and the cycle will start over. To sum up, this picture tells about tomato life cycle. The following picture gives information about stuff in the rubbish bin. According to this picture, in the left area, a lot of acceptable food scrap includes eggshell, fish bone, soiled paper, noodle, plate scraping, vegetable and orange, surrounding a rubbish bin. The color of the bin is gray. You can see from this picture that, in the right area, there is a lot of unacceptable items: disposable lunchbox, diaper, animal waste, plastic container, flower pot. The lunchbox is white, and the flower pot, brownish red. To sum up, this picture tells about stuff in the rubbish bin. The following graph gives information about media in UK. The items include internet, TV, newspaper and radio. According to this graph, in internet, the value of 2005 is around 60%, and that of 2003 is lower, which is around 50%. You can see from this graph that the highest percentage of 2001 is in radio, and it is 63%. In conclusion, newspaper has the lowest share in 2005, about 3%. This picture gives information about correct and incorrect postures. According to the picture, at the left area, there is a man sitting in the chair, who sits very straight and whose eyes are watching the computer screen. What's more, his hands are placed naturally on the keyboard. At the right area, another man is also sitting in the chair, but he hunches over the desk, with the hands placed too close to the desk. To sum up, this picture tells about how we should keep the correct posture. The following line chart gives information about palm oil production of Indonesia and Malaysia. According to the line chart, the red line of Indonesia rises from the lowest point, about 5 million tons in 1997 and 1998, to the highest point, about 18 million tons in 2007 and 2008. We can also see the blue line of Malaysia ranges from 8.5 million tons in 1997, 1998 to 16 million tons in 2007, 2008. And the value of Malaysia is always higher than that of Indonesia until 2005, 2006. After that, vice versa. To sum up, this chart tells about palm oil production in two countries. The following layout gives information about the graduation laboratory. I notice that, at the central area, there are storage and toilets. What's more, animal sciences is in the lower left corner. According to this layout, the largest area is for plant sciences. In comparison, the smallest areas are offices. In conclusion, different rooms are displayed on the plan. The following graph gives information about the annual change in forest area by region. Data of different areas are displayed on the map. The items include net gain, states, and net loss. According to this graph, the net gain in 1990 to 2000 is in Europe. In comparison, the largest net gain in 2000 to 2010 is in Asia. You can see from this graph that the largest net loss in 1990 to 2000 is in South America. And the smallest net loss in 2000 to 2010 is in North America. To sum up, different continents have different annual changes in forest area. The following graph gives information about the closed-loop recycling process. It shows how the process is done. The steps include collect and recycle, sort and shred, mold and manufacture, and so on. According to this graph, the first step is to collect and recycle. Then, sort and shred is the second step. You can see from this graph that the mold and manufacture follows. After that, it is to assemble and ship. Finally, it comes to purchase and use. To sum up, this graph tells about recycling process. The following graph gives information about adding an article to Wikipedia. The steps include searching Wikipedia, thinking of another term, creating a new article. According to this graph, the first step is searching for Wikipedia. After that, there are two questions. The first one is it found, and if yes, it goes to think of another term. If no, it turns to the second question, is there a related term? And if the answer is yes, it goes to create a redirect. If no, create a new article. To sum up, this graph tells about addition of an article to Wikipedia. The following graph gives information about teaching as a career. The items include final year student who wants to be a teacher, graduate students working in teaching, employed in the teaching field. According to this graph, the final year students who want to be a teacher is around 1%. And the percentage of graduate students working in teaching is around 7%, which is higher. You can see from this graph that the highest value is in employed in the teaching field, around 95%. What's more, the lowest share is in final year students who want to be a teacher, just 1%. To sum up, the graph tells about different percentages in teaching as a career. The following graph gives information about two examples of input process output. The steps include materials, factory, and product. According to this graph, the first step is input of materials. Secondly, to go to the factory, you can see from this graph that the third step is to become the product, which is the output. The next step is data and it is the input. Then, it is to go to the computer. Finally, it comes to become the information, or output. To sum up, this graph tells about input and output. The following graph gives information about world population development from 1750 to 2050 in developing and industrialized countries. From the graph we can see that the population in developing countries has remained stable in 1 billion from 1750 to 1900. After that it witnessed a dramatic increase to 10 billion until 2050. However, for industrialized countries, it remained at a relatively low level throughout the years, which is around 1 billion. In conclusion, while developing countries have undergone a sharp population increase, the population in industrialized countries has seen little change. The following graph gives information about different zones globally. The pink areas means polar zones, and they are found over 60 degrees north and south. And yellow areas standing for the temperate zone can be found between 30 to 60 degrees north and south. When we look at the area lower than 30 degrees north and south, there is the green zone, representing the tropical zone. To sum up, there are different zones in different latitudes.